All right. Oh, I gotta turn my music on. Man. There we go. All right, here we are. Good morning, everybody. Nikki Burnett, Taste Life Nutrition. This is Taste Life Nutrition Radio, streaming live on KUHSdenver.com, where we just really have the best time. We bring on some really cool people doing some really cool things, having a lot of flipping fun, but here to care, to serve, to give, to love, all of the things that that we're about. So today we have Jan Hoth, or Jan Joy Hoth, which I love so much, and she's gonna obviously be talking to us about joy, which you know, I think everybody could have a little more of. Even if we're always pretty joyful, I think we can have a little more joy. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. This is so exciting.
Cool. Okay, so first things first, as always, we start the show with gratitude. Gratitude can change the world. I believe that fully. It is a practice for me. Although I'm not perfect at it, I don't think anybody is, but it is a practice for me, and I think it's super important. So, what are you grateful for today?
Well, right now I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for all the listeners tuning in. I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful for my life. I'm grateful for all the challenges that I've gotten to grow through.
Yes.
And the ones
Thank
that will
you for
come.
saying that. Yes.
In my work, I talk about them being lessons and blessings.
Yes. Well, it's true.
And then we can leave them past.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. I call them character builders.
At you.
Yeah.
And yes, so I feel so blessed, and I'm so thankful for my beautiful family, my beautiful life, my health, and of course my joy.
Yeah, good for you. And before I jump in, since you said that, before I jump into what I'm grateful for, your joy is practiced, I assume, right?
Oh yeah.
So it is a practice that you do every day, just like eating, praying, meditating, skiing, right? I mean, it's a practice.
Yes.
Yeah. So
it is. It's
yeah.
absolutely a spiritual muscle.
Yeah.
That requires nurturing and nourishment.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that. I love that. Awesome. All right. So today, what am I grateful for today? So many things. Grateful for you being here. I've been really looking forward to this. Your energy just makes me so happy. I mean, I know that that's kind of your intent, but it's just, I mean, from the first day I saw you, like I didn't know you, I just went, wow, like you're a I will knock you on your ass with my joy kind of person. I think it's amazing. So super grateful for that, and glad that you're here. We are heading, oh my gosh, I've traveled so much. I mean, I enjoy traveling, but I don't usually do it so close together. And so we went to Portugal for 10 days, and then I had to go to Dallas for a conference. Now I'm going back to Dallas for a graduation, which is awesome. I mean, Dallas is home, right? So I get to see friends and family and hang out and celebrate and all the fun things. So enjoy it so much. Grateful to get to do that, get to see them, have the opportunity, the ability, the capabilities to go and to do and to do all of the things that we do. So that's what I'm grateful for today. It's good stuff. Yeah, yeah. So let's just kind of jump in. You have a story, and that's one of my favorite parts of this show is everybody has a story. Usually it's really freaking hard, and it is that blessing and lesson. It's that character builder. It is what brought us here. It or they stories, those stories are what brought us here to where we are right now in this place of, like I said, and I that's what I love is, you know, giving and loving and serving and doing all of the things, or at least working on doing all of the things that we're meant to do, right? We've got so much more to do. But yeah. So let's just start there, wherever you want to start.
Oh my goodness. Well, I have many stories, and I know which story you're probably leaning towards, so we will dive in right there.
Yeah.
So, the story goes, I woke up one morning and I have my beautiful 6-week-old son, and I'm changing his little onesie, and he's so cute cooing on the change table. And I have my 2-year-old daughter. She's off at her little Montessori school. And yet, as I'm changing my son's onesie, something's not right. And I'm noticing something's off with his arm. And he's cooing and he's functioning like he seems okay. And yet we get on the phone, call the doctor. He says, you need an x-ray, go straight to the hospital. Well, we're in the hospital. The doctor's looking at the x-ray, and we were just at the local hospital at the time. We lived in the Florida Keys, so it was a small town. And he said, would you like to go to the children's hospital by ambulance or by car? And I'm looking at my husband like, excuse me? And the children's hospital is like 2 hours away. And all of a sudden, we're starting to get this feeling like this is serious. Well, we chose to drove ourselves, in case you're wondering, and we gathered our daughter because we call it circling the wagons. Like, my husband and I just like to bring the family close, and we're like, well, we're in this together. So we drove up to the hospital, and hours later, I find myself in the cancer ring of the children's hospital. And at this point, it's late at night, no more visitors are allowed, only one person can stay, and it needed to be me because I'm the breastfeeding mom. And so my husband and daughter drive back, and I'm alone in the hospital room with my beautiful baby boy in his hospital bed with all the wires, and I'm sitting in this moment of horror. Like, hours earlier, it's a beautiful sunny day, changing a onesie, and here we are. It might be cancer, it's life-threatening, we don't know. And just this harrowing moment. And as everybody's listening, I just invite you to see yourself in this, because we all have a story like this. This is not my own story. This is my version of this challenge. Well, at this point in my life, I had been coaching, life coaching, leadership coaching, executive coaching. And I taught, think a new thought and you can move your way forward. This is the first time in my life I thought, I can't think my way out of this. And I just remember sitting in the dark, and it's the first time I really looked up and asked for help. And, no big thing happened in the moment. It was just this moment of surrender and, oh my gosh, I need to get some sleep. So let's go do that. Well, the next morning, I wake up in this horror moment of like, this really is my life. I'm looking at my son. We don't know. Doctors are coming and going. And I realize I'm really hungry. And I did not pack for an overnight. I did not pack for a lengthy hospital stay. And the nurse says, hey, you can order from the menu. Well, I'm, of course, crying, horrified. How do we move through this? And I open the menu. And I look down and I see that I can order Fruit Loops. And the first thought is, that's not nourishing to me. That's not nourishing to my son. And I know you're a nutritionist. It's like, oh my gosh, I can't be eating this horrible sugar, gluten, dairy. And a larger voice came over me. You're not looking for nutrients for your body or his. You need to nourish your joy. And I thought, oh my gosh. And just the thought already started to shift my awareness, my presence, my everything. And I ordered the Fruit Loops.
Yeah.
And the Fruit Loops came, and I joyfully, for those few minutes, while the unnatural colors swirled in the milk, and I ate and crunched and sugar, I had joy for a mini moment in this dark hour of my life. And while I'm joyfully eating my Fruit Loops, my son's in his crib next to me, giggling and cooing. And so, just for this mini moment, I had joy. And I started to feel better. I started to sense some hope. And I affirmed, we get out of here somehow. I don't know how. And yet, we're going to get out of here. And so, while I did not eat Fruit Loops all 12 days we were in the hospital, I did choose to look for joy. Because when I was in that more joyful state, I could see more clearly. I could grasp onto the hope that I was holding on to. I could ask for prayers from family and friends, something I'd never done before. And I can start to be in a place of better decision making.
Yeah.
Like, do we give him a blood transfusion? I just gave birth to this baby. And a lower version of me, a sadder, depressed, scared version of me would have said, no, heck no. And in the joy state of consciousness, where we do have better decision-making faculty, where we're more intuitive, connected, reasonable, and available to what else is possible, it was, heck yeah, let's give him the blood transfusion if that's going to help. And we're going to bless the blood and make up that it is magic and part of what will heal them. Well, after those harrowing 12 days, we did get out of there with, off the record, a medical mystery diagnosis.
Oh, wow.
And off the record, a miracle. The doctors were saying he is a miracle. They chalked it up to something medical, like a hematoma or something, and yet we went through every test possible to figure out what it was, and yet it just started to go away. And they said, well, we're going to have to follow him. The orthopedic surgeon said I need to see him till he's 18. Well, on his first birthday, he said he looked at the films, and what he saw and what was present was as if nothing ever happened. And that's where this was truly a miracle. And I can humbly say, yes, I appreciate Western medicine. Yes, I appreciate all of the help of the doctors and everything else. And I believe my joy and the energetic frequency and ripple effect that I had collectively, of course, with my husband and my daughter and everyone else, we healed him. And that's where we haven't had to see that doctor since. After that first 1 year birth date, we didn't have to go back. And while I know that this is my story, that we came out on the other side and he's now a healthy, vibrant 12-and-a-half-year-old boy who is hilarious and also big butt sometimes, but that's perfect as a vibrant 12-year-old boy.
Yeah.
And I also want to honor that, I know there were other families in that medical unit that didn't have the blessing on the other side that I did. And that I have other stories too that we probably won't get into today, where it wasn't so fortunate, where I could still find the joy even in the tragedy. So as I share this story, that this isn't just about me, this just happens to me in my story of where joy brought hope and possibility and what else might be available. And I know it positively influenced everyone at the hospital at the time. I had nurses coming to sit with me and saying, what are you doing? There's something different about you. There's something different about the energy that you're bringing, that I want to sit in your room with you. I want to hang out with you and your son. Because you have a different approach to this whole process. And that's where I now dub that as the Fruit Loop moment, and I have these wonderful mugs to share it, because that's that piece. You asked me at the beginning of the show, like, joy isn't just something that comes to me, it's a practice. It is a spiritual practice. And even sometimes I forget. I gotta look for the Fruit Loop moments, and that's part of what I already want people to start thinking about and taking away, that no, it doesn't mean you have to go eat something that's off your nutritional plan at this point. It's just appreciating, though, it was a spontaneous act that shifted my state of being and my awareness, that provided me a better opportunity to deal with the challenge at hand.
Yeah. I hope that people hear this and truly take it in, because I know that we can be so sucked in to the fear and the trauma and the unknown And, you know, it's hard to even imagine, right? But then how do you find something to grab onto, which, you know, is, it's just so beautiful finding joy in Fruit Loops when you're in this situation that really brought you out of a hole. I can only imagine you're just sort of sitting in a hole going, what in the hell is happening and what am I going to do? What are we going to do? Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And I want to be clear and transparent. Did I have my breakdown moments where I'm bawling my eyes out, freaking out? Absolutely. I'm still human. We're all still human.
Yeah.
And it's the and. It's acknowledging I'm terrified. This is such a hard decision to make, and I'm going to trust that I can look for a little shroud of hope, and that I can move forward in some kind of way that can help me, him, we through this. So it's not stepping over and pushing aside the fear, the upset, the scary decisions. Every time they said, we want to do this, we want to go in for surgery again. Like, my son is 6 weeks old and he went under a knife twice.
Ugh.
And they did a bone scan. They had to pump him with ink and all these things that you don't want to do with your brand new baby.
Yeah.
And just having those tough decisions. And there was one time where he was actually supposed to go into surgery, and the hematologist, the blood doctor, came through and was like, I'm a no. I'm not going to sign off on this surgery. His hemoglobin's too low. He was almost going to go into surgery. That's when we had to decide to give him the blood transfusion, pull back, like they prepped him for surgery, all these things, and then we had to pull back. And it was just like one decision after the next. And being in that space of like, whew, all right, I'm terrified and we need to make a decision. His life is on the line. Our well-being as a family is on the line. And, you know, I acknowledge people are in this space right now. There are people sitting in hospitals right now. And I'm moved to think about that. And so I really hope that people can listen to this. And whether you're in a hospital, whether you're in dire straits with finances, career, relationship, personal health, like, this is my loving encouragement to you to look for the mini Fruit Loop moment, to just have a little bit of joy. It sounds backwards, and just having a little bit of joy, having a break, because you're not dying this moment. You don't have to pay the bill this moment. You don't have to have the hard conversation with that loved one this moment. You can have this moment for you, and that's what the Fruit Loop moment was about. It was a moment for me to collect myself, to get into the gift of life that we're in, and that majority of the time, actually, things are going great, people. Like, if we really look at it and we think about all those moments of challenge and strife and struggle, they're really a blip in the big picture of our life. Like, I love having this painting in the background. It's I don't know if you can see, it's like surfers and it's rainbows and it's like, it's all the colors. And look, there are times when we are caught up in it. But the truth is, for the majority of our life, it's actually going pretty okay. And so the joy energy is like, and I'll use the surf analogy, it's like getting back on the board and getting back on top of the wave, and let's surf this life. Because I really believe life is a gift and joy is a gift. And both of them we didn't exactly were given. We weren't given the book of how to. And that's where I believe I'm part of the how to process, and you are too, in your own gifts and talents, Nikki, and everyone here. Like, I believe absolutely everyone. For me, joy is an acronym for just own you. And I believe absolutely everyone has a unique expression to bring to this world. Now, not all of us want to get on radio shows and get on stages and share in coaching and counseling and guiding. And thank goodness, because we need people to honor all the different aspects of life and how we function as an organism.
So true. Oh, I love that, because we do. You know, we go from the tiny up to the macro, right? We're all functioning together.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so what is that for people today? Like, what is that for you today to turn up the volume a little bit more on you? And what does that get to look like? And if you are in one of those challenging, struggling moments, like with my son, like, where can you actually put a little bit of focus on something that will just bring you joy? And by the way, like, Fruit Loops had nothing to do with the situation. It just happened to be what came to me.
Yeah.
So, and if things are going great, the Fruit Loops can boost you even more. So looking for that Fruit Loop moment is really like a secret sauce to enhancing who you are and how you get to show up in this world, because I believe all of us have so much more untapped potential. I know I do. That it's like, how can we like turn the volume up a little bit or a lot more to bring even more? Because that is when I believe, that macro and microorganism that we are, that's when it gets to be really beautiful with the wide array of colors, and it's like a full orchestra. Everyone has their own voice in this orchestra, and we want to hear you in this choir. We want to hear you. We want to hear you play your instrument and see what that gets to look like in the greater scheme of humanity.
Yeah. Amazing. I can just let you go on forever. Like, I don't need to be here.
I'm so excited though, and I'm so appreciative that I have this opportunity to share my heart, because as you know, I'm just so inspired to inspire others.
Yeah. I love it. So let's do this. Let's kind of go into today, right? So today, and so enjoy and just own you. What does that look like today, and what are you doing, and what are you seeing, and how is it affecting you? How is it affecting the people who you work with now? That was a lot of questions. Sorry, I should probably take them one at a time. But
I can tackle it bit by bit. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Well,
go ahead.
We'll start. Yeah. Like, with me, so my work is also anchored in mindfulness, and mindfulness being simplest definition that I teach and stand with is present moment awareness. So it's about getting to this moment, and what does that look like in this moment? Just owning you might be Fruit Loops, it might not be. It's recognizing what's relevant at this moment in time, the decisions that you need to make from this moment in time, the ways to show up at this moment in time. And part of that is looking very humbly and honestly at what is no longer true. I just had this conversation with some clients yesterday. I lead a group called Fueled by Your Joy, or Fueled by My Joy. And it's about appreciating, like, what fuels me this moment. So right now, me to run and eat Fruit Loops would not fuel me.
Right.
And that's appreciating, like, it worked at that moment. That's where it's like, replace what is the Fruit Loops now. So that's step one. What is nourishing myself and my life and my leadership and my impact as, a thought leader and having clients, and how I show up as mom and wife.
Yeah.
And appreciating that is constantly evolving. So that's really step one is recognizing, just own you. It's in this very moment. What is your definition for joy? Not even like an hour from now, this moment as you're listening in. And it might be something very different from what it was even yesterday.
Yeah.
So that's the relevancy and importance that I have and that I bring. Then the next piece is, you asked about who I'm serving. I love working specifically with women visionary leaders, women who are up to a lot, and they have a driving force that it's like, I want to have a great life. I want my family to have a great life. I want my community, my business, my philanthropic work, whatever all that is in that expression. And that there's like a soul vision that's like, I got to fulfill this in this lifetime. And so my joy work is about really supporting these women that are like, I can't sleep at night because I know there's more. And a lot of these women are hugely accomplished already in professional, personal lives. You know, they have the things, the accolades, and yet there's more. And that's the fulfillment factor that I know I'm here to help support in. And yet I'm on a mission, and this is like exciting and humbling to share publicly like this. I'm on a mission to touch 1 million lives or more.
Awesome.
With this joy conversation. And I know I can't do it by touching 1 million lives one at a time.
Yes.
So by supporting and being on this radio show, so thank you so much, and serving the women leaders that I do, I know that I get to help influence positively and impact positively in a big way all the people that they are showing up and leading. And so what that looks like for them individually, I mean, just yesterday, some of my clients are like, dang, I realize I'm not showing up in this way and this way and this way with my family, with my team, and it's time to turn the volume up, and it's time to let go of thinking it has to look this old way.
Yeah.
And that's where, you know, what I see a lot with my clients, and I'm sure you do too, it's an identity shift. It's like who I am now. And, you know, we hear about it, and like I'm blessed to be happily in my mid 40s. And I know in my 30s I showed up a certain way, in 20s, and like we can kind of look back, and then I have beautiful beings that I collaborate with. I have a lovely woman that I do a mindful equine experience with and mindful ski experience with, and she's 80. And I look at her and think, oh my gosh, like what she knows in all her decades. And yet it's a moment to moment thing of what has us lit up in our own joy at this relevant moment. And what is that identity that's going to serve me? Because the truth is we actually do need an identity. It's just looking at, is it still serving you? And that's what I end up doing a lot with my clients too, is I support them in the self-awareness and self-actualization process of and now, and who is it that I require and choose to be.
Yeah. To
have that joy radiance in all that I'm up to, and to have that creative and imaginative flow that comes from that joy consciousness.
Yeah, I think that often we can it happens a lot, but we just sort of get stuck. We get stuck in who we were, or we get stuck in who we think we should be, or you know, what's to come. And you know, it was making me think about you know, one of the things you talk about is self-sabotage. And so how do you approach that? Is that a good question?
It's a great question, because it's such a tough part of the process that everyone suffers from it. No one is immune to self-sabotage. And step one, self-compassion. Because usually it comes in sideways. We're not conscious to it. We're not aware of it. And that's where this idea of mindfulness as a step one, that's the gateway. Like, get present to, oh, there I go again. I am sabotaging myself in my existence, in my results, and like how I'm showing up, and you know, having uber self-compassion and having it for yourself. And then a big thing is, and I know this, you believe in this too, having mentors, guides, support that are, you know, loving family and friends are great, and professional support to really come from that wholehearted, unbiased space of compassion, to hold the light on for the compassion, and you can't do it for yourself.
Well, it's that, and one of the things that I think too, that I know for myself I need, is seeing outside your own little box, right? I mean, it's so hard for me to see outside of my box. And then somebody comes in and says, well, what about this? And just opened up a whole other box for me. So my box then grows, but without somebody to help me grow my box, you know, I just sit and I'm stuck. I'm like, I don't know what to do. And so having that outside influence, from the people you trust is so key.
So key, because it's holding you in that space of compassion. It's having that other fresh perspective to expand the view, absolutely, and then it's leaning in some way to have the courage to take whatever that next step is, to follow through, because it's not enough to see it and sense it and feel it and maybe even know it. You got to go be it and do it, and that's the integration piece. So it might be like appropriate time to share that I have a process called the happiness prism that is a super simple notion of a prism, and in simple form it's a triangular pyramid, because it's a 3D representation of what I believe is you and your joy. And when you are so lit up and you have these three elements, which I'm about to share, that when you can harmonize, though, that's when you radiate out your brilliance and your rainbow ripple effect that you're meant to have here. And that's where we can wholeheartedly move through that self-sabotage that you're talking about. And the three elements are play, and that's getting into that joy state with no other purpose than to get into joy. Peace, that's that tuning in, that's that prayer, that's the quiet, the inner reflection. And then the third element is progress, and that's where you put it into action, put it into motion, because it's not enough to get into your joy and to be tuned in, tapped in. It's like we're being people, we're doing people, we're human beings here to live fully in what I believe is a full body experiment.
Yeah, it's a great way of putting it. Yeah.
Life is a full body, full contact sport experiment. And if you're not out there, getting scratched and scraped and bruised, and obviously I mean this physically and spiritually, you're not living either. And that's the piece where I'm also here, like, I feel like I'm on a soapbox to advocate for people of, like, get out there, go get hurt, let someone help pick you up, recognize that you have some self-sabotage going on, and then get back out there, because there's something more for you to experience. There's something more for you to positively influence. And again, wherever you are at in life, sharing a smile at the checkout can make someone's day or even life.
Yeah.
Smiling at someone, and I do this sometimes, maybe it's a little creepy, sitting in the car at a stoplight playing some good tunes and smiling at the person next to you. Like, you have an energetic influence.
Yes.
Science has proven, like, we have an energetic force field that can reach miles and obviously cross sound waves across the world, out in the universe. And, like, you feel it when you are next to someone that's feeling funky. You feel it, like there's a heaviness and a darkness. You also feel it when you are next to someone that's feeling great, that's energetically beaming joy without even saying anything. And that's where this awareness of, like, an invitation to get out of that self-sabotage, and an invitation and loving nudge to get on with, when you realize that you matter, that your uniqueness matters, that's when you can have that influence and impact that you don't even know that you're meant to be making.
I love that. Going a little deeper into the self-sabotage, do you see trends? What are, like, so people can maybe relate, because I think sometimes it's hard to really understand. We know what it means, but what does it look like in daily life?
It looks like going to do that load of laundry. It looks like running the vacuum. It looks like going for the second, third, fourth coffee. It looks like avoidance in some capacity. It looks like scrolling on social media and looking outside of yourself. It looks like, for some, reaching for that glass of wine maybe a little bit early. It looks like, even physically, like head down and just kind of not willing to make eye contact.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like not wanting to get out of bed. It looks like not sending the email. It looks like not picking up the phone and having the conversation. It looks like reaching for that thing in the fridge that's your go-to easy instead of making the time to make the salad.
Mm-hmm.
It's so present in our daily life that it's insidious. I mean, it's also, it looks like making the joke that's sarcastic, that has an air in it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Instead of acknowledging, wow, I'm actually really hurt by this. And being available to talk about what's underneath.
Mm-hmm.
And so it can be so simple and hidden in plain sight. And yet it is so present when you open your eyes. And it's, not doing the dishes. It's not making your bed. It can be something as simple as that, of letting something go that is the simplest thing if you just do it. That would make you feel that little bit better, and then it's incremental.
Mm-hmm.
And just like, with your nutrition work, like it's not going to be an overnight success. It's a bit by bit building it process of planting the seeds and nurturing the seeds and watering the seeds, that those daily habits will build up over time. And on the flip side, that daily avoidance will build up over time.
Yeah.
The dirt will build up.
Mm-hmm.
The non-healthy neurological pathways
Mm-hmm.
will build up.
Mm-hmm.
The, and even just on a physical front, like the fat and the unhealthy cells will build up, and it will be harder to come back.
Yep. That's really such a great way of putting it. Thank you. It was so good.
Oh.
So you talk a lot about the competitive advantage of joy. Dig into that a little bit.
I would love to, because I truly believe that joy is your secret soul superpower, mm-hmm. that the majority of the world is not harnessing. Mm-hmm. And yet, if you look at the 0.0000 percenters, I'm going to name a few: Oprah, mm-hmm. Michelle Obama, like Lady Gaga, like some of these women, for example, and there's men out there too, that are harnessing the joy. Like, they're not stepping over the tough stuff, and yet having the joy, just owning you, and harnessing it is totally a competitive advantage. Because the thing about joy, as I teach it too, is it's not just the happy, happy, joy, joy, and that's where I very much like to distinguish the factor. Yes, I have a process called the happiness mm-hmm. prism, and yet that's an emotion to be achieved and experienced at times. Joy is a state of being where we can acknowledge the not joy too, mm-hmm. and that it's on the way back to that joy high level state of consciousness. And when you understand how to move through the not joy, because that's part of what I do with my clients, is the shadow work. Mm-hmm. And because I've been there and gone there with myself and all the other challenging circumstances that we're not going to get into today, family tragedy, deep depression, mm-hmm. severe debt, 7 figures that we bounced back from mm-hmm. and dug out from.
Yeah.
And I have a healthy, thriving relationship with my husband, and yet I will say, haven't gone to divorce, and yet have had our challenges for sure. And I've coached clients through crazy divorce experiences. So appreciating when you have the tools to move through the not joy, to move into the true joy, that's where you can sustain an energy and presence that will absolutely outlast people who are just in it for the quick fix, in it for the short term, in it for the, the short-sighted outcomes. And that's where I truly believe joy, while it's intangible, and yet I share with people things like prisms all the time. Like, I give them out to my clients, my workshops, my clients get a package of prisms from me, because there is a tangible outcome that happens when you can harness your superpower of joy, that it really is a competitive advantage that most people aren't talking about, that most people aren't advocating for, because it is a spiritual muscle that needs to be built over time. That while I do help my clients get jump starts of joy, and that's like kind of my intro program, if you will, is joy activation and then joy jumpstart, that we get you going and get the engine up and running. And yet there is a presence that comes, and I mean, if I can humbly say, you shared that it was something that you appreciated in me. There's a presence that comes without even opening mouth, that you can feel.
Yep.
And that you can sense. That it really is a competitive advantage when you know how to be with it and to engage it from within, that so many people are missing the point on and missing out on, because they're going to all these external forces, habits, structures that are never going to have the full impact if the joy energy is not there lined up with it to have the energetic impact and influence.
Well, and it takes me back to one of the first things that you said, is the clarity. And for me as a believer, it's what is, if I'm joyful and grateful and listening, then I can hear. If I'm all caught up, in what, God's trying to tell me, but if I'm all caught up and I'm unhappy and I'm frustrated and fearful and all these things, which these things can happen, right? I've been fearful many times, but if we're living in it, we can't hear clearly, right? We don't have that clarity. And I think it's just, it can be, again, as a daily practice, but it can be that game changer. Just as you said, it's your competitive advantage,
And it is a game changer, because it is that God connection. It is that intuition that is usually insights and advice, perspective, that the human brain, our limited brain that's from here to here, where the universe is infinite and God's source is infinite, that's where those creative ideas drop in, that really has that competitive advantage. That you're right, like, if we're not available to those little whispers, then we're missing that creative solution of what's going to serve in that next step of pick up the phone and call that person, and have that person on the show, and show up in that space, right place, right time. That I mean, I have so many stories about that it was like the logical mind would think you're nuts, and that higher self joy mind will say, go for it.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for that. So I want to talk about, because I know this for myself, and I know this for most people.